Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March 24, 2026 meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, including the use of an AI note-taking app, please notify the chair. No one. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 25 signing of the order extending certain COVID-19 measures adapted during the state of emergency. This meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling 508-945-4410. Again, 508-945-4410. And enter conference ID 181-231-120 pound sign, 181-231-120 pound sign, or one may join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible, and we will momentarily do an attendance check, but we will be covering off some of the last articles to come before us in advance of this year's town meeting, and do a little mopping up after that. So, attendance: Joanne Sprague.
Here.
Kristen Andres.
Here.
Tommy Doan.
Here.
Eric Whiteley.
Here.
And John Papalardo.
Here.
Present. Okay, and I know that Tracy's absent and Barb is absent, so we have a quorum. So let's begin, shall we? Carrie, would you like to
Sure.
read us in?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So first on the agenda, we have a citizen's petition. It's a bylaw amendment for Chapter 261, Water Supply Emergencies by Gloria Hicks. And she is here to go over this petition with you all. And then we have a couple of, another petition on here by Brian Phillips.
Yep.
And then we also have the revisit of the acceptance of bequest from the estate of Patricia Ford for the property at 63 George Ryder Road, which Gloria McPherson is here online to go over that with us. And then just a couple of other things that we'll be going over.
Yep. All right, so let's start with the proposed bylaw amendment, Chapter 261, Water Supply Emergencies. Ms. Hicks, welcome.
Good afternoon. Gloria Hicks, Meeting House Road. This town warrant article is about water conservation and the responsibility of all of us in protecting our most valuable and vital resource, our water. Our summer months have become increasingly warmer and drier and consistently every year, which necessitates a water ban and restrictions every summer. Rob Faley came to the Select Board last week and reported that we are in a level 2 drought right now. Although expected to recharge, nothing is guaranteed. Brewster reported little faith in a recharge even with our snow and rain thus far. Although all of our water comes from the same aquifer, some treated for public water and some for private wells, it is not environmentally logical anymore to continue to do business as usual. Our choices now are to hand water or water with installed irrigation systems, which no longer can be installed, or to put in a private well. The restrictions for hand watering and irrigation systems are by use, days, and hours. None exist for wells. Chatham is changing. Large developments and massive homes are being built in Chatham, and all with wells. Any citizen can put in a well, but if it defies logic for all of us to do that in terms of conservation. We invite mass save into our homes for low-flow shower heads, faucet diffusers, and low-capacity toilets to help conserve water. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts Water Management Act program model bylaw includes options for regulating private wells. Towns are adopting these by bylaw changes. Hamilton, Wenham, and Rentham have done so. The Department of Public Works Director of Rentham fields calls all the time from other towns about how to do and change these bylaws. To continue to simply ask private well users to honor water bans and restrictions is no longer environmentally sound or logical. Well water doesn't even have to be tested. Some don't even know what they're drinking. Microplastics, fertilizers, industrial chemicals, and bacteria are being returned to the earth as well. I am asking for your support with this warrant article to include private wells in our conservation efforts. It is simply the right thing to do. Let's make Chatham the gold standard for other communities on Cape Cod in conserving and protecting our water. It's time to move forward with this initiative. Thank you for your consideration.
Very good, thank you. Questions from Ms. Hicks? Eric, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming. I guess my main question, and I would say concern about the article as you've presented it is, I guess I'm not totally clear that the issue with the water restrictions that the town of Chatham puts on is based on the aquifer and the levels in that. I understand it to be more in our pumping, treating, and storage capacities, and then the usage from there through the town system. I guess, is there data that's showing that the issue is actually in the aquifer as far as the levels being down and not just in our capabilities as in our town water system on the public side?
Well, the point that I was making is that all of our water comes from the aquifer. And 80%, I think, of irrigation is for, 80% of our water usage is for irrigation. So the problem that I see with the wells is everybody in town could put in a well. That is going to affect the aquifer. That is going to absolutely affect the amount of water and the quality of water that we have. Anybody can put in a well. I could put in one now, but I choose not to do that. That is absolutely going to affect our aquifer, and it's true of Cape Cod in general.
Okay, I guess just to follow up and not to belabor the point, I'd say thinking that and knowing that are two different things, and I really think that the reason that my understanding of the reason that we have the limitations on our water use from the town has been directly related to our capabilities of pumping, treating, and storing it. I don't think I've seen anything that says that the aquifer itself is not available. And when someone puts in a well, particularly for irrigation, yes, they're pulling from that same aquifer, but in my understanding, they're not impacting the town's capability for pumping, storage, and treatment. So that's where I am on this.
The only thing I would add to that is well, I'm sympathetic to the petition article. To your point, though, I will note that Dr. Duncanson has come before this committee a number of times over the last decade, asserting that the issue isn't depletion of the aquifer; it's the extraction.
And that's again, that's the point I think I'm trying to make. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay.
If I may, I guess.
Please, yeah.
I guess would be inevitable if everybody put in wells to not affect the aquifer. That's where everything comes from. And the DPW in Hamilton explained it to me. He said it's like a swimming pool. Some people drink from the top, some people drink from the middle, but everybody drinks from the bottom. So if everybody puts in a well, it would have to change the aquifer.
Well, let me hit these two members first. Kristen, please, and then Joanne.
Well, thank you for bringing this forward. I think that we all draw from the aquifer. We just have different size straws. You can think of it that way. We're at the bottom of the lens here in Chatham, and because we've been in sequential years of drought, we are sucking the bottom of our wells, which is why we've had to put multi-million-dollar treatment systems in for manganese, and have these, water conservation guidance and requirements. And so I think that this is a good thing to do. I think that it's sort of become those who can afford irrigation wells and those who can't. And it doesn't seem that when we're talking about water, which is our most precious resource, that we all have a right to and should all be fairly have access to it and use for our most important purposes, which is survival and our drinking water. I think this only makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Joanne, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question that comes up to me is more to the wells are a private investment of the household that puts in a well. How do we have the right to restrict them now? And maybe we do. That's my question. Do we have the right to restrict the usage of a well that was privately paid for?
I can help you with that. The state of Massachusetts lists in their bylaws, their action plan, that the towns do have a right to change their bylaws. 3 towns have already done it: Wenham, Rentham, and Hamilton.
Okay, so
That's
For
why I
few-
did the article. That's the only way to change it, is by changing the bylaw.
I'm saying, well, in other words, the people in the future, you could make a law like that. We could change the procedure, but the people who've already made that investment and not knowing about this new restriction, will we be able to do that?
Well, sure, because they're using the water. It isn't for future, it's for right now. Our summers are completely different. And it's about the water that we're using today. We don't know what we're going to be using 15 years from now, but we do know what we're using today, and we're already in a level 2 drought. That's not going to get better.
Thank you. And I still do have a question about the private investment.
Yeah, please.
No, well,
Oh.
it's just lingering question.
Oh, okay. Understood.
Not satisfied yet.
Understood. Gloria, can I just come back to a comment that you made about the state of Massachusetts and these 3 communities. What specifically was permitted by the state? You referenced bylaws, but I'm assuming
Well, the state
Mass
leaves
General law?
open the option for municipalities to change their bylaws to include private wells and water restrictions and bans.
Okay.
I'm happy to leave 3 copies of the towns with you that I pulled.
No, I believe you.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. So the state, it was, I actually have it in my folder. I think I said it. It's a Water Management Act Program Model Bylaw, and they did state it. So it's
Okay.
under the umbrella of the state, but then towns are actually, are changing their bylaws because of the circumstances that we're in.
And
Being-
how, again, I'm sympathetic to the concept. How does it get policed? Pass this
Well,
thing, but how do we,
None of
any kind of an
them,
enforcement regimen? Are we relying on goodwill or?
nothing is policeable. I hand water. You don't know that I'm out in the backyard, spraying off my house or doing my walk or my
Right.
deck or whatever. It's the same for everybody. Nobody can be policed. So the private well isn't any different than the rest of us.
Okay,
Mr. Chair?
please.
Thank you. Do we have a copy of that bylaw in our backup material? I don't remember seeing it. The Massachusetts law.
MGL?
Well, it's a model.
I don't think it would be a bylaw for the state. It would probably
I'm happy to,
embedded Massachusetts
Whatever.
general laws.
I'm happy to leave a copy with the.
I'd have to see that, yes.
All right. I can
Thank
do
you.
that.
Okay, further comments or questions? John or Tracy? Oh, Tracy's joined us. Hello, Tracy.
Hello.
John, you've got your hand up, please.
Yeah, thanks. I guess this falls in line with the enforcement question. I I'm wondering how many homes in Chatham are not on town water, but rather use a private well for all of their water service to their property.
For some reason, I remember the number 1,600, but I'm not sure about that, to be honest with you.
Eric?
And
So
John, I think Eric wants to jump in on this.
I think if I understood John's question, it was for all of their water. So I think there's probably a lot of irrigation wells that could be somewhere in that range. I don't know what the number is. I'd be really surprised if the number of homes in Chatham that use all of their water, their drinking water, as
think that was the
to be
number
in
of-
that 1,600
Yeah.
range. That would be a lot, and
Right.
and I'm in a lot of houses.
But, yeah, there's no way to police it. That information I do not have, and I don't know that anybody could get that to you.
Sorry, John.
You good, John?
yeah, thanks.
Okay, Kristen, please.
Thank you. I just want to make the comment that back when we passed fertilizer regulations, there's some similarity here in that policing and enforcement is extremely difficult. But it's also, by passing such a regulation or bylaw, it does allow the town to engage in some outreach and education, and water conservation is really all about that. I know that DPW did go, they were people driving around doing enforcement during Water Conservation Days, so it's not impossible when irrigation systems are going off in the middle of the day, which is like the worst time to water anyway. But I think that there's probably lots of regulations and rules on the books that never get fully enforced, but I think there's an advantage from the educational standpoint, and to let everybody know that they should be thinking about this very important resource.
Moral suasion.
Well, the fact that there are no regulations or restrictions or any mandates for what people are drinking. I mean, unless people have their wells tested, they don't even know that. They don't know what they're drinking. I mean, that's frightening to me.
It would be interesting to have sort of a comprehensive data suite. It would probably take some time and certainly some money to develop it, but it'd be kind of really interesting to know of the properties, kind of sources and uses, and what, frankly, an analysis of all that with AI, through AI, could generate in terms of understanding of leaks and consumption patterns and things like that. But I may be dreaming. Kristen?
Well, I think there is a lot of general data out there about how much water usage is used outside. And it's really, I mean, across the country, we know it's a ridiculous amount of water, drinking water, that's put out onto our lawns. And, obviously here in Cape Cod, we have one aquifer. It's only recharged by rain and snow melt in the winter months, not in the summer. So it can rain all summer, but that's not going to do too much to recharge the aquifer. And when we have back-to-back years of drought, we're just behind the 8 ball, and our groundwater wells are quite low. I mean, we've heard DPW has been working on water conservation for years. This is not something that's unique just to those who are on town water. I think water conservation is always a good idea. So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you. So, interesting, I was looking into this separately a couple weeks ago for a different purpose, but there was some USGS data, I came across. About 350 million gallons per day of water recharges the combined Sagamore and Monomoy aquifer systems at the water table. Most water, about 65%, discharges at the coast, and most of the remaining water, about 28%, discharges into streams. A total of about 24.9 millions of gallons per day, or about 7%, is withdrawn for water supply. Most pump water is returned to the hydrologic system as return flow, creating a state of near mass balance in the aquifer, which I found interesting. That was USGS data or information. All right, any further comments or questions? Okay, there being none, I will take a motion to support the petition article to see if the town will amend to vote Chapter 261, by adding the words, "and users of private wells drawing water from the same aquifer from which the town's public water system is withdrawn."
So moved.
A second.
All right, Joanne, support?
No.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
No.
John? Pappalardo?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
And the chair supports. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2. All right, thank you, Ms. Hicks. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Did the selectmen take a position on this?
Yeah, I don't have anything. Carrie, did we have it? Thank you. That's terrific. I'll circulate it to the committee. Carrie, did we have a read on what the select board did?
It's tonight.
Oh, okay. All right, so now we have a citizens petition article, acceptance of local option, MGL Chapter 59, Section 5O, for the affordable housing tax exemption for year-round rental properties, being presented today by Brian Phillips. Mr. Phillips, please.
Brian Phillips, 374 Leans Road. Hi.
Hello.
So I guess my whole thing behind this was, to try and create affordable housing with the infrastructure we already have. I didn't come up with this. I was at the Orleans Town Meeting where they passed this. So I took that article they passed and I brought it to Mr. Litchfield, and then he typed it up. And here I am now.
All right. Would you like to explain yourself and your petition, now that you're here?
Oh, so I guess a couple of things. So it's creating affordable housing with the infrastructure we already have. So one of the concerns I did voice to Mr. Litchfield was, the 40B affordable housing rates, the AMI, I think are a little high for the area, with the 110 AMI being like $3,000 a month for like a one-bedroom apartment. So he put in here that, that the select board can come up with the rates of rent to make it, better, more suitable for, this area and the people that we have living here year-round. I know there's the lease to locals thing going on, but that doesn't reward the people that already rent to year-round people, which I think is important. And then, so there's the 12-month rentals that this obviously does, and I was hoping that it could also, maybe at a lesser tax exemption, do what used to be done a lot was like the 9-month. There's the summer rentals, and then they used they used to rent it in the off season, 9 months out of the year, which was an important gap rental for young people, and I've heard visiting nurses possibly, and things like that. So that's really all I have.
Okay, can you just sort of briefly and concisely describe what... Can you briefly describe what precisely the proposed article would achieve, what its notional goal would be, and the framework for it, for the benefit of the committee and for anybody who's watching the meeting or will watch the meeting, who may be a little less familiar with the topic than you?
What do you mean? It's to promote people renting to year-round people.
And if I'm reading the brief correctly, it would provide a form of a tax break to landlords
Yes, sir.
in the form of what, a credit against their tax bill, or Carrie?
It's an exemption. You qualify for an exemption that has to be processed through the assessor's office.
Okay, and the select board would set that exemption level?
Yes.
I would assume so.
Okay,
Yep.
all right,
Set the rate of the exemption.
okay. All right, questions, Eric?
Thank you. So in reading through the requirements to qualify, some of them are things we've seen before, the AMI and the 200% and things like that, domicile. What is the definition of affordable housing rate of rent, and you have any information on specifics on either where that comes from or numbers, or how is that derived?
Well, for the 40B, I think it's like state mandated on the area median income, which I roughly, it's like roughly 100% in mine is roughly 100,000, and it's like 30% of that. But my concern is that those rates are not affordable, and that's why I voiced my concern to Mr. Litchfield, and the select board would get to set those rates that would be more accommodating for the people that live year round and the jobs they do.
I think, I don't know if you were answering for the
I don't know if I'm answering.
AMI. I was more asking about the bullet that reads the affordable housing rate of rent. What is that? What derives that number? Where does that come from?
I think it comes from the state, but we do have Gloria McPherson on. Maybe she knows.
Oh, good. Gloria, you there?
Hi, everyone. Could you summarize what you're asking of me? And please know that I haven't prepared for this discussion,
No,
but I'll do my
understood.
best.
No, I mean, I think from the 10,000-foot view, I think I'm sympathetic to what's being suggested here. I'm just not clear at all on details, implementation, who sets what rates. There are several things listed that Eric referenced. The affordable housing rate of rent will be set by the select board of the maximum annual occupant household income. It just seems like there's a lot of meat on the bone, and I don't have a lot of clarity on what we're being offered to eat.
So at least I can provide a little insight into the rent. So rents are typically set at no more than 30% of a household's gross income, and that would include, because it's a rental, their utility costs. So rent plus utilities can't be more than 30% of gross income. And then we can extrapolate that number out from the area median incomes. I just don't have that data right now. I wasn't really prepared to answer this.
No, understood. I appreciate that.
So I do have a little bit more information.
Carrie, please.
So right here, it says in the law, the property tax exemptions shall be for an amount determined by the city or town, provided, however, that the amount shall not be more than the otherwise due on the parcel based on the full and fair assessed value multiplied by the square footage of the housing units rented and occupied by a person or persons whose household income is not more than the income limit set pursuant to clause, divided by the total square footage of a structure located on the parcel. It's quite a bit of information. Assessment of property seeking an exemption under this section, if by an income approach to value, shall assume fair market rent for all units. The property owner seeking the exemption shall submit to the town or city any documentation the city or town deems necessary, including but not limited to a signed lease and proof of the occupying person or person's household income to confirm the eligibility of the property or the exemption under this section.
Well, that clears it up.
Sorry. It was just a little bit in there.
Joanne, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
And then we'll go
Chair.
to Tracy.
I would find it difficult to vote for an article like this without knowing the loss of tax revenue, how it affects the rest of us taxpayers, and the cost of enforcement, which I think would be, you'd have to really be careful of how you enforced it and make sure you had the personnel to do it. How much is it going to cost more for that enforcement personnel than it does right now? So as it stands right now, I don't think I could vote for this, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Tracy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question is, who does the actual exemption benefit? The property owner, and then are we just hoping that it extends to the tenants? Or is it for the property owner to encourage them to rent to for affordable housing?
Brian,
I think it's both.
okay. Carrie?
Yeah, so if I'm reading this correctly, it's a benefit to the person renting, so they could go in and rent a place at an affordable rate, not more than 200% of the area median income, so at an affordable rate, and then the property owner gets the tax exemption for renting the property at a lower rate, if that's making sense.
So I guess, again, I'm sympathetic to the idea, but the devil's in the details. The select board's responsible for setting, amongst other things, household income limits not to exceed 200% of the AMI, area median income. Is that for qualifying for a tenant or
That's
for the landlord?
Right, so, yeah, so you got to be,
Well, I assume it's one or the other.
it's qualified for the tenant.
Okay. Joanne, please, and then Eric.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Do we have any idea of what the enforcement costs would be? Okay, thank you.
All right, Eric, please, then John.
And it may have been already spelled out, but this exemption that it looks like the selectmen have the over purview of, is the expectation is that it's like a full exemption or a portion of the taxes, or what do we?
They get to set the rate, so whatever is deemed equitable, and I don't necessarily have that answer. So it's got to be enough to encourage or, but not too much.
Yeah, so the language here reads, "The select board is responsible for setting the maximum amount of the exemption, which cannot be in excess of the tax due on the parcel." Mr. Pappalardo, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I think, as I read this, really, the proposal is asking town meeting to authorize a framework, but most of the important decisions and discussion come later, as evidenced by the questions that my fellow committee members have asked. I think Joanne asked what the estimated annual tax expenditure drop-off could be under this participation. How many units does the sponsor realistically expect this to affect in the first 1 to 3 years? That'd be a question I'd want to understand. Do we have the ability to figure out if this would create new year-round affordable rentals rather than subsidized units already operating that way? Not that one's better or worse, but, and then the whole question of enforcement, verifying rent levels, tenant income eligibility, and ongoing compliance. And then the possibility of change of use once the property becomes qualified. So I'm generally supportive of trying to help the renting side of the broader discussion for housing in Chatham. And I could actually support the article, understanding that a lot of work is yet to be filled in and a lot of questions yet to be answered.
All right, thank you, John. Ann Ryan, please.
Hi, I would just like some clarification on if a property is a rental property and it's owned by an LLC or a corporation, and how is this going to affect the tenant? I think I've heard that possibly because that ownership entity wouldn't be eligible for the credit, that the rent could actually be higher. So I would wonder if how many properties in Chatham are in that status with tenants versus, owned by individuals that would be available. Because I think that could have an effect on, how many individuals would actually be negatively affected by this.
All right, thank you, Ann. Further comments or questions? Joanna, looks like you got your finger on the trigger.
Just to wrap up my thoughts, An article for us to give approval to for town meeting should have all of this information with it, from my point of view. So therefore, without everything that goes with it, we're talking about a tax exemption, which affects the whole numbers of our taxpayers. So I could not vote for this because there's just not enough backup information, or not enough of our questions are answered.
Thank you, Joanne. Kristen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that I appreciate the article proposal, and that I've often thought about this too, like, let's come up with whatever incentives we can to have more affordable, whether it's the small letter A or the big letter A. How do we entice property owners to provide affordable housing to folks? And so I think the concept's great. I too am concerned about all the details. I guess if we knew, if this were to be passed, that all of that would be worked out by the select board, or maybe they wouldn't do anything at all. I don't know if this compels them to do anything, but I do like the concept of it.
And I will point out that in the work of the Finance Committee's Attainable Affordable Housing Working Group back in January 2020, that one of the recommendations that the working group presented to the Finance Committee, which in turn endorsed it and presented it to the Select Board, was that we figure out a program to give a tax concession to people who do rent year-round. And I don't know if Gloria is still on the horn, but I think, Gloria, if I'm not misremembering from 6 years ago, that Provincetown has a provision that is akin to that. Am I remembering that correctly, or?
You are, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, Eric, please.
I'll be quick. I just want to kind of echo what everyone else is saying, and I'm very supportive of the concept. I think it makes sense. I think it's something that we've been a little bit beating the drum about with where maybe where the RTE was going and those kind of things. And and I do acknowledge what John is saying, that it does empower the select board to take this and make it into something. I think so. That being said, I think my understanding of what our role is in either endorsing this or not endorsing this from the Finance Committee is, I believe, should be for this type of an article coming, as Joanne is saying, from the impacts of the finances on the town. And there isn't enough information here for me to support it the way it is. I think, I think it's a great concept. I'm not sure that it shouldn't maybe come from a different place, either the select board that has maybe some more of the details already hashed out, some of the questions that have been brought up and defined, so that there is something that says, within a range of what the impact is on the rest of the community, and how many places this impacts. And I think the point that John made about whether it's really going to spur new opportunities for people, wanting to create rental spaces, which I think would be fantastic, versus, kind of just propping up some of the ones that are already there. So for that reason, I'm not going to support this, but I think it's the right concept to be talking about and maybe, beef up a little bit and kind of bring back to the town would be kind of my position on this.
Can I, and this is just, like John said, this is the framework for the select board to come up with. So that's why I don't have all these numbers, because they're not for me to determine. And like the lease to locals program, where it goes whatever it is, $5,000 to start off, but doesn't continue, like this would be a follow through on a program like that, where you get the upfront money, and then they continue to rent year round because of something like this, even though, I don't know how much money it's really going to be with the tax exemptions, because taxes are so low.
Okay, Joanne, please.
Just one last time.
Sure.
Seems like too many times this year, the Finance Committee has received these good ideas, and then we're expected to look up all of the background information for it and find out the exact cost, when that should be part of the proposal. We should look at a finished proposal with all the costs, what it would cost the taxpayer, and be able to say, we recommend it or we don't. But we're getting, for instance, like the RTA, I think we have been expected to figure out what it's going to cost and how it's going to operate, when that should have been a completed project for us to look at and say, yes or no, it's worthwhile. So it is a good idea, but because of those reasons, I'm not going to vote for it.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Joanne. And I would observe, I think congruent to what Eric's observation, we do have a working group of the Finance Committee to evaluate the RTE and consider alternatives that may be additive to what the RTE may or may not be trying to achieve. But this would seem to me to be something kind of square in that wheelhouse. Is P-Town, as we just heard from Gloria, apparently has a program, and again, 6 years ago, we recommended it. Go back and revisit that as a working group, and maybe that falls into our brief of recommendations to the committee and ultimately to the select board. So, okay, so let's, if there are no further questions, comments, anything? All right, I'll take a motion to support, please.
I'll move it for purposes of discussion, if there's anything else.
Thank you, Kristen. Is there a second?
Second.
Tommy Dolan, thank you. Support, Joanne?
No.
Kristen?
No.
Tommy?
No.
Eric?
No.
John, please.
No.
Yes?
No.
No. Glad I checked. Tracy, please.
Yes.
All right. And the chair does not support. But to be clear, the chair supports the idea. I just think we need to dial it in a little bit to the comments that kind of everybody's made. So 1 in favor, 6 opposed.
All right, I got one. Thanks.
There you go. Well, watch this space. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. All right. All right. Town meeting article review and vote to place and recommend acceptance of a bequest from the estate of Priscilla Ford of the property at 63 George Ryder Road, just down the street here. We have previously reviewed this and voted on it. I think there was a nuance that was presented to the select board that wasn't highlighted to us at the time we made the vote. So I asked that this be put back on the agenda for us to reconsider, perhaps more accurately, more fully consider. Unfortunately, because I just came here straight from the hospital, I was not able to get all my papers, and I actually managed to obtain a copy of Patricia Ford's will, language of which seems to be pretty clear about the prospective disposition of the property at 63 George Ryder Road. Gloria, I think you're here to edify us a little bit on this, and again, to the extent we can kind of highlight what I think was more emphasized to the select board than to us initially around ultimately why do we infer from the language in the lease that selling the parcel is an appropriate potential outcome?
So the discussion at the select board meeting, which I went to shortly after the FinCom meeting or before, I can't remember, after. And when the select board reviewed this and they reviewed the language in the warrant article and they compared that with the language in the explanation in my staff report, one of the questions came up about the sale of the property without a deed restriction, provided that the revenues received would be used for affordable housing purposes. So town council had made that determination that that would meet the, requirements of the bequest with respect to affordable housing purposes. But the select board didn't feel like that language was adequately represented in the warrant article, so they actually sent it back to town council to add some language with the purpose that the language would ensure that all options would satisfy the bequest of affordable housing purposes that were available to the select board. So we can retain it, we can sell it with a deed restriction, or that last option, which would be to sell it without a deed restriction, provided that the proceeds were used for affordable housing purposes. So the new version that you have actually shows that additional language. Do you want me to share my screen? I actually have that here if you want to see it.
Well, I think
don't know if
we have the new language in our packet
Okay.
that's
So
been
there's
provided,
new
assuming that
language-
everybody has it. But if anybody would like to see have Gloria share her screen, we can certainly do that. But I think everybody should have the language. I guess Gloria, what I'm most interested in, I understand, having read all this, where we are now, I guess the question is, to what degree, and I've heard this from a couple people in town, to what degree does it comport, understanding the town council has rendered an opinion on it, but to what degree does it comport with the language, kind of the plain language in the will? I'm not an attorney, I'm not going to pretend to be an attorney, but there are those in the community who think that the language is pretty clear that this is to be used for attainable, affordable housing and not to be simply sold with the funds to go into the trust. So Gloria, do you have, or Carrie, do we have the language from the will that we can read and?
I do have the language from the will, but I have to, let me find it on my computer. 1 second. And I can
Well,
put that on the,
Do you want to refine that, and then we can move on to the next article while you're poking around?
yeah, that works for me.
Okay. Everybody good with that? All right, so let's hop to proposed article for the additional funding for the expansion and renovation of the Nomadic Center for Active Living.
Yeah, so this
Hope you can
was
find a home.
just in on a Friday. I think your cover sheet is an old one I was working on, but it's actually posted online as Revisit Center for Active Living article. And that's just because we don't really have to revote unless you want to. However, originally, this was proposed as a capital exclusion because the estimate we thought that was going to come in was going to be much higher than, we were anticipating it was going to be a lot higher. And when the bids came in on Friday, we were pleasantly surprised that they were significantly less than what we were anticipating. So instead of doing a capital exclusion and using free cash and our articles, we only need to use $200,000 of free cash instead of the $500,000 that we were anticipating in the articles and the 1.3 million capital exclusion. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I mean, if you want to revote it, you can. However, I think you all voted in favor of the original capital exclusion. So
we can poll the committee on that. I'm inclined to revote it just based on the new information, and that our vote actually reflects what's going to be before town meeting rather than something that won't necessarily before, albeit at a lower quantum. Was there any kind of financial engineering in addition to kind of lower received bids? Was there any kind of financial engineering around anything that helps us take this down from the anticipated 1.7 to 200,000, or is that strictly the result of the lower bids?
that is the result of lower bids. I think there was, I think there was like 8 or 9 bids. Is that correct?
Lita,
7.
Lita, would you mind popping up for a sec?
7 bids that we received, and they were all significantly less than what we anticipated.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon. Who are you?
Leah Lacrosse,
Hi,
Director
Leah.
of Community Services. Hello.
Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. 7 bids, yes.
There was 9 submissions in total. In the report, it says 9 submissions in total.
Huh.
And 3 apparent low bidders.
And to be clear, this is just the construction cost based on the formal contract drawings that were available to during the RFP process?
Correct.
And not kind of soft cost, build-out cost, FF&E
Correct.
kind of stuff?
And that total Carrie, do you have that total with you, the 5 with the soft costs? I think that was the 5 point,
It was like 5,180,000 or something like that.
yes.
That's what
Very, very
we-
close to
yeah.
that.
Looks like that CFL working group did a great job.
I think they did.
Sure
a
did.
Great job.
Okay, so good news, and really validating in this instance the bid in hand approach. I know there have been some comments on, by members of the committee as to whether or not it might be possible to, and this is not necessarily for you two guys, but ladies, but whether it might not be possible to use the bid in hand approach on other projects on a going forward basis. So Carrie just stabbed, did you want to say something? You were turning it
I
off.
was just shutting my mic off, sorry.
You're turning it on. Okay. Good. Well, in that case, good news. Any comments or raised hands? Negative. So let's revote it based on current information. So, don't have an article number. The proposed article for additional funding for the expansion and renovation of the Center for Active Living at 193 Stony Hill Road, an appropriation of $200,000 from free cash rather than the previously anticipated $1.7 million. Is there a motion to support that? Tommy, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Kristen. Support, Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 7-0.
Thank you.
Hopefully, your wanderings may be nearing an end.
Be so nice. Thank you all for your support.
Yep.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you for everything you're doing. All right, so Gloria, are you still with us?
I am.
Hello.
Let me share my screen and I will put up the language of the well.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you guys see that?
Generally, yes.
Is it up there?
It is up there, Gloria, yes. I don't know if you can make it a little bit bigger, maybe.
Sure, hold on a second. It's already at like 125%, is that better?
That's good.
Okay, hold on a
That's
second.
great.
Now I have to get back to the pertinent section. Okay. Okay. Do you want me to read it out loud, or do you want to?
Sure.
Okay. So it's in the second section of the will, and it says, I give and devise the property located at 63 George Ryder Road, Chatham, Barnstable County, Massachusetts, with the improvements thereon, more particularly described in a deed dated December 27th, 1979, and recorded with the registry, blah, 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 to the town of Chatham, to be held and dedicated to use by the town for such affordable housing purposes as the select board shall deem to be in the town's interest. Do not hereby impose any condition or restriction with respect to the preservation of any structures or improvements existing on the subject property at the time of this bequest. The town may remove, renovate, alter, or reconstruct any such structures or improvements as it deems appropriate solely in furtherance of its affordable housing objectives. And I would say that the sentence that town council is perhaps hinging on in their interpretation, that the town could choose to sell it for money that would then be applied toward affordable housing in another location perhaps, is that it's to be held and dedicated to use by the town for such affordable housing purposes as the select board shall deem to be in the town's interest. So the edits to the warrant article don't make any value judgment about what the select board may be recommended to do. All it does is leave open that particular interpretation from town council as an option for the select board to choose, if they choose to do so. And that would be at a public meeting where there would be public input taken.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for the explanation. So comments or questions? Okay. Anything online, John, or? No. All right. So a little more clarification then on what the actual article says relative to versus what we originally voted on. If there are no comments or questions, I'll take a motion to support.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Kristen. Okay, support. Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Tracy? Tracy is not there, okay. And the chair will support with the clarification. All right, so that's 6-0 on this one. All right, I think there's going to be, for some, the inevitable question of kind of intent versus legal interpretation, as is always the case, but, all right, so done on that. So then,
Thank you, Gloria.
yeah, Gloria, thank you very much, appreciate it. You can
You're
punch-
welcome.
you
See
can
you all
pu-
later.
All right, sounds good, thanks. All right, so, speaking assignments, well, let's do a general update. Carrie was gracious enough to provide some numbers last evening for our report. I unfortunately have spent far too much time with doctors and hospitals today to even crack the file open yet. But I will do that and start incorporating those numbers to the report where she either changed or confirmed various numbers. The corpus of the report is done, except for a write-up on MRSD, which we got the figures from Carrie again late yesterday afternoon. And I'm probably halfway through the topics of note that I've gleaned from all the inputs that you all have been, and others have been kind enough to provide. All of which to say, we're probably 3/4 of the way done, 70% done. And the goal remains, we'll deliver a report on Friday and get it to you guys for your review. I have a surgical procedure tomorrow. So there's a couple of hurdles that I need to clear. But I'm doing the best I can, so we'll keep plugging away. The next question is speaking assignments. If there's anything in particular, articles that you do or importantly do not want to speak to, please send me a note, let me know. Otherwise, once we're done with the report, and that's submitted at the end of the week, I will begin the assignment process for speaking. We are also going to have a speaker to read the motion for our petition article regarding the RTE. I was thinking about getting Andy to do that, and then I might speak, or somebody else can speak to. We can have a couple people speak to the RTE. I've talked to the moderator. There's no strict limit on the number of finance committee members who could speak in favor of the article and why we voted the way we did in support of it. So again, if you have some interest in laying out some thoughts to the town meeting on that, please let me know. Comments or questions generally on where we are, on the report, on any of the stuff, it's open. There being none. We are tentatively thinking about a meeting on Thursday, which might be the shortest finance committee meeting in the history of the town of Chatham since 1712. Really kind of focusing on, I suppose, the report for the warrant. So I think more to come on that. I'm going to go home now and get back on the saddle. And then kind of get as much done as I can tomorrow around the surgery. So I'll try not to do too much afterwards. And I guess that's kind of what's going on. So we'll figure out what's happening on Thursday, in the next 24 hours, but don't be surprised if it's a snow day, but it may not be. So, all right. No more comments or questions, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A reluctant second from Tommy. Joanne?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Tracy is gone, and the chair supports 6-0 on the adjournment. All right, thank you, guys.